Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Douglas Day 2022. We are delighted to be celebrating this sixth annual Transcribe-a-thon with the Color Conventions Project this year. We want to start with greetings to everybody out there in the world today. We are grateful for your presence, for your contributions, for your organizing energies. There are nearly 5,000 of us at 90 plus different locations all across the world, which we really see as a real endorsement for the power of collective action for recovering, remembering, and
Recording in
defining
progress.
Black history. I'd like to pass the mic over to Denise in just a moment. We've got a great program prepared for you today here on YouTube. Hopefully you've already been able to find through social media or our website, DouglassDay.org, links to our brand new crowdsourcing project, Transcribe Color Conventions. All of this will be available to you online and through our series of speakers today. I'd like to introduce next my co-pilot and co-director and many things, Denise Burgher. Denise?
Thank you so much, Jim. Welcome all over the world, all across the United States, Canada, and beyond to Douglas Day 2022. We are so excited to share this day with you and so honored that you have joined us. We have a jam packed lineup of a variety of different ways for you to to be entertained by history, and to participate in the radical transformational work of helping us to preserve and make accessible Black history for the present and for the future. So, coming up, the very next two people that you will hear from will be the Reverend Dr. Andre Johnson, who will provide us with an ecumenical blessing, which, as those of you who've been along the ride with us in the past know, we try to mirror certain aspects of Douglas Day to the ways that these events were performed in the past. And so we absolutely needed to have a powerful blessing to start our celebration. Right after we hear from Reverend Dr. Andre Johnson, you will hear from Dr. Clay Coleman, who will lead us in the singing of the Negro National Anthem. So the very next voice that you will hear will be the voice of Reverend Dr. Johnson, bringing us into and in alignment with the Spirit. Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Denise, for the introduction, and thank you for allowing me an opportunity to participate in Douglas Day this year. Oh, I'm getting tongue-tied already. Let's take a couple of deep breaths. Let us center ourselves. Let's take a couple of deep breaths. Let us receive these words. In a speech delivered May 30th, 1871, on Decoration Day at Arlington National Cemetery, Frederick Douglass warned his audience to remember the meaning of the Civil War and the emancipation thereafter of the enslaved. Quote, "We are sometimes asked, in the name of patriotism, to forget the merits of this fearful struggle and to remember with equal admiration those who struck at the nation's life and those who struck to save it, those who fought for slavery and those who fought for liberty and justice. I am no minister of malice. I would not strike the fallen. I would not repeal the repentant, but may my right hand forget her cunning and my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I forget the difference between the parties to that terrible, protracted, and bloody conflict. We must never forget that victory to the rebellion meant death to the republic. We must never forget that the loyal soldiers who rest beneath this sod flung themselves between the nation and the nation's destroyers. In one of his last public addresses, given 1 year before his death in 1894, Douglass proclaimed, "Whatever else I may forget, I shall never forget the difference between those who fought for liberty and those who fought for slavery, between those who fought to save the republic and those who fought to destroy it." though uttered some 151 and 128 years respectfully. These words do not seem too far in the past and too far removed from what we are experiencing today. As we see how some in our country are trying to recast and reframe the January 6th insurrection, the states try to outdo each other in passing voter suppression laws, and as some states pass laws that hijack history and punish those who would dare to, Douglass's fight has become our fight. We too must find a place and stand in the gap to bear witness to the mischaracterization and misremembering of our history. We too must see our work more than just an academic assignment, but as a cause to help shape understanding by grounding ourselves in the truth we unearth and recover. Therefore, when we stand, we must stand on the shoulders of the ancestors who have gone before us. When we stand, we must stand with those who are fighting the good fight and getting into the proverbial good trouble. When we stand, we must stand with the vim and vigor we need to go the distance, knowing that those who oppose our work will not rest. When we stand, we must stand in the spirit of collaboration, realizing that there is power in numbers and that with each other, we can do the impossible and achieve the unachievable. When we stand, we must stand in the African principle of Mott. May we stand in truth and justice, knowing that faith without works is dead, and a dead faith cannot respond to a living vision. May we understand and stand. May we understand our roles. May we understand our cause. And may the peace that passes all understanding be with us all. Ashe.
Ashe. Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Johnson. I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to now share with everyone who has gathered with us on this August afternoon a bit more about Dr. Johnson. So Dr. Johnson sensed a call to serve both in the academy and as a role of pastor, which those of you who have managed to hear and understand what he just said would probably say yes. He appreciates opportunities to do scholastic work and to serve in the community, and his scholarship is deeply influenced by what he is doing in the community. As he prepared for seminary, he chose Memphis Theological Seminary because he wanted theological education, not indoctrination. Dr. Johnson wanted to gain exposure to different faith traditions, denominations, and cultures. He wanted to learn, grow, and develop into the kind of pastor and academic prepared to serve the church and the broader community in the 21st century. And I suspect, having had an opportunity to listen to his words this afternoon, you would agree that he is exactly who he has purposed himself to be. Thank you so much. The opportunity to hear after I speak will be Dr. Clay Colmon. Dr. Clay Colmon is the Associate Director of Instructional Design for Penn Arts and Sciences Online Learning. He earned a Bachelor's of Arts in English and Political Science from Rutgers University and holds a PhD in English from the University of Delaware. His work lives at the intersection of race, gender, sexuality, science fiction, and digital studies as he examines technology's impact on community building efforts for Black folks and other minoritized groups in digital environments. He has presented and published scholarship on Black speculative futures in literature, music, and critical digital pedagogy. However, Dr. Colmon will be bringing his expertise, his skills, and his prodigious talent to leading us in the singing of the Negro National Anthem. Dr. Colmon will not only be leading us in singing this anthem, but we're going to invite everyone else to join us. If you are not familiar with the song, we will have the words provided for you on the screen. So as Dr. Colmon sings, the words will shift in time with his pacing, so you'll be able to join us. But because of the distortion that would be created if we had thousands of people with open microphones, while we are celebrating Douglass Day, we're going to ask you to keep your mics off. So keep your mics on mute, but turn up the sound because Dr. Clay Colmon is now going to take us into this next very important part of celebrating Douglass Day as he leads us in the singing of the Negro National Anthem. Dr. Colmon.
Thank you, Denise. And I want to say it's a privilege and a pleasure to be in the space with you all. For those wonderful words, Dr. Johnson, I count it as a privilege too to make good trouble with you and with all of us here. So what I wanted to do, as Denise said, is to sing Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Black National Anthem. And we encourage you to sing along. Just make sure that you're muted on your microphones. So without further ado, is everyone ready? Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun on a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on our way, Thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Thank you so much, Clay. Thank you so much. We apologize for the mix-up. We were not able to actually have the words, but thank you, Clay, for taking us into and through that. Dr. Casey.
Thank you, Denise. And thank you, everybody, for your lovely songs. We could hear them from here. I would like to next introduce a very important person for all of us here at Penn State. Professor Shirley Moody Turner is co-director of the very new Center for Black Digital Research, as well as a professor of English and African American Studies, and the co-founder of the very new Black Women's Organizing Archive, we spent much of last year celebrating. So I'd like to invite her to say a few words now.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Casey. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Johnson and Dr. Colmon. Good afternoon. As Dr. Casey mentioned, I'm Shirley Moody Turner, the founding co-director with my good friend, Dr. Gabrielle Foreman of the Center for Black Digital Research, also called DigBlk, which stands for Love Black Communities, Excavate Black History, Digitize Black Records. The center is home to the award-winning Color Conventions Project, to Douglass Day, where we all are today, our yearly Black History Birthday Party and Global Transcribe-a-thon, and our newest project, the Black Women's Organizing Archive. Housed in Penn State's College for the Liberal Arts and the university libraries, DigBlack is committed to bringing the histories of early Black organizing to digital life through the collaborative archive and exhibit building and community and arts partnerships. In our practices, as we include voting registration, support Black bakeries in today's events, for example, we seek to honor the organizing histories we resurrect and study. We are delighted to bring Black records to life with you today, and we trust you here as well. Thank you.
Okay, I think that we have the very good luck of being joined now by a second speaker, if I can see my camera properly. I'd like to now introduce Faye A. Chadwell, who is Dean of the University Libraries and Scholarly Communications here at Penn State University. Among the many other wonderful people that we'd like to say hello to across the Penn State University Library System, we're delighted to be joined by Dean Chadwell this morning.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy birthday, Frederick Douglass. Happy Valentine's Day. The University Libraries is very pleased to be a part of this celebration and this collective action brought to you by the Center for Black Digital Research, which is a very significant collaboration between the College of Liberal Arts at Penn State University and the University Libraries. And there are a couple of key library units that play a role, one of those being the Eberly Family Special Collections Library and our unit Research Informatics and Publishing. It's really critical to celebrate the work of many people in Black community who battled for their freedom and for civil rights. But even as we celebrate Black achievement today, we have an opportunity to take stock of where and how systemic racism persists. And that to me is really the beauty of this collective action today. Excuse me. Together, we can take steps, and we are going to take steps to give visibility to people and organizations like the Colored Conventions who created change and especially make the work of Black women more visible so it can be explored and integrated and used in curriculum worldwide. That's pretty exciting to me, to give voice and make visible voices that may not have been heard or understood or been not represented well, especially in libraries and archives. And to make historically underrepresented people's voices heard is a major priority for Penn State libraries. So to borrow the words of Dr. Johnson, so we don't misremember our history. I want to thank all the organizers and thank all of you who are participating today. Thanks for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to be a part of this celebration.
Thank you, Dean Chadwell. Thank you, Professor Moody Turner. I'd like to now introduce the heart of our lineup of speakers for today. We're going to be talking about some of the histories behind Douglass Day, behind the Colored Conventions. And then we're going to leap a little bit into some of the activities that we have prepared for today, along with Transcribe Colored Conventions. I'm going to start with Courtney Murray. She is a dual title PhD student in the Departments of African American Studies and English and a scholar here in the CBDR at Penn State. Her research focuses on interrogating the manifestations of Black archival practices and theory in late 18th and early 19th century African diasporic archives and literature. You might also know Courtney as one of the true leaders of the Douglass Day team over the past 3 years, including all communications, our vision, our overall strategies. And she's also the person that we especially have to all thank this year for the incredible stickers and flyers that so many of us are enjoying today. So I'll now welcome Courtney to the stage.
Thank you, Jim, and welcome to all for Douglass Day. And I'm here to present on Douglass Day, past and present. Although Black churches began commemorating Frederick Douglass shortly after his death in 1895, to really understand the rich history of Douglass Day, we must recognize that Black women specifically created and sustained what we know to be as Douglass Day today. It wasn't until 1897, with the recommendation of Mary Church Terrell at a DC school board meeting, that Douglass Day became a school holiday celebrated on February 14th and became the eventual predecessor to Negro History Week and later expanded to Black History Month. This genealogy of a holiday dedicated to Black history owes its creation and growth to the activism and labor of Black women like Terrell and Anna Dooley Cooper. That means that Douglass Day is not merely a birthday celebration about one of the most important and most photographed men of the 19th century, but Douglass and his memory became a movement, as argued by Terrell White, in which, quote, propelled Black club women into the history of historic preservation and marked a continuous dedication to preserving the African-American historical legacy, end quote. With Terrell, Douglass Day intersected both her commitment to racial uplift, as shown here when she proudly declared, quote, it proves that I and nobody else established Douglass Day, end quote, but also to the suffrage movement and Douglass's efforts to that movement, when she reflects that without Douglass's advocacy, quote, it is anybody's guess how long the cause of suffrage for women would have been delayed, end quote. Black club women and their organizing efforts. They enmeshed his memory into communal pedagogy. Douglass Day not only reached the young, but in the case of Cooper and Franklin Housing University, it also had a place in adult education and training. What often goes understudied is how Douglass Day brought together broader networks of Black women across the country. Employed Douglass and his namesake day as a fundraising campaign for the upkeep of Douglass's home, erecting memorial tablets and statues and writing histories about Douglass. Even corporations, either owned by or affiliated with Black women, played a role in memorializing Douglass's life and impact well into the 1960s. Fast forward to 2017 at the University of Delaware, these Black women's efforts guided the Color Conventions project team, including many here today, to revive these celebrations as memorials that invite active participation and communal gatherings. They created Douglass Day principles that recenter that many Black collections, holidays, and movements would not be what they were or are without the labor and organizing of Black women. Starting with a small but mighty group of 250 people in 9 locations, we have invited and reached over 7,600 people in 117 locations to participate in the making of Black history through Transcribe-a-thons and other events. As you can see, we have steadily moved towards memorializing the legacy and activism of Black women at the foundation of Douglass Day since 2020 with our Transcribe Cooper project. But this year, we joined over 4,500 people to return to our roots and partner with the Color Conventions Project to find Black women in the Color Convention, and as a result, possibly expand the long history of Black women organizing well before women like Terrell and Cooper. This year, we're asking, where did they go? Not only to ponder their absence and sometimes brief appearances at conventions, but also to speculate about what they did, saw, sung, protested, and so forth. To wonder, how did they engage with Douglass and what he represented that began Black women's tradition of memorializing him after his death. We aren't just looking for their names, but how they showed up as fully fleshed women and labored in so many ways to contribute to the conventions. You never know. You may find another piece to Douglass Day and Black women's activism in these pages today. So happy Black History Month, happy Douglass Day, and happy transcribing.
Okay, I hope everybody out there is joining me in a round of applause. Thank you, Courtney. I've been really looking forward to getting to share more of that with everybody. I'd like to now introduce somebody who many of you might already know. She is a professor of English, African American Studies and History. She's the other co-director of the CBDR, but you might know P.B. Gabrielle Foreman best as the founding faculty director of the Color Conventions Project, collaborator to many of the folks on here today, and a community builder who really fits into some of the traditions, I think, that Courtney was just talking about. So I'm going to invite her now up to say a few words about the history of the Color Conventions.
Good afternoon and good morning, depending on where you are in the world. It's such an honor to be here today with all of you. The Color Conventions Project, what we call CCP, will celebrate its 10th anniversary this April, making us not exactly old, but still one of the longest running Black digital and archive building projects in the United States. When CCP first decided to celebrate Douglass Day as a day where we could join with others, with you, in putting our spirits and our fingers to work, we never thought we'd be joined with thousands of people every year in a global transcribe-a-thon. We never thought that together we would be able to resurrect a forgotten holiday and that we could join forces with everyday people, with schools, with libraries, with churches and cultural organizations to make Black history freely accessible to those with computers and internet access here and abroad. Colorconventions.org brings early Black political organizing to digital life, sharing the records of multi-day, state, regional, and national meetings held in almost every state in the growing US and also in Canada through 7 decades. Unlike the abolitionist movement, far from ending with freedom in 1865, conventions continued past the Civil War, tackling ongoing challenges that we still confront today. Convention delegates addressed brazen, ongoing roadblocks to school access and equity, as well as backroom and front office refusals to include Blacks in the workforce or to do so only with shamelessly discriminatory pay. They highlight the ongoing practice of striking Blacks from juries and voting rolls that continues in new forms. The targeting, harassment, and murder of Black people at the hands of the state, and legal indifference at the violence of white mobs and individuals who aimed the force of their ire on Black people as if we were game or bullseye. Along with the tens of thousands of men and women whose names we do not know, scores of the most important African-American editors of Black papers, reverends whose photos you walk by and line the entrance halls of congregations right now, writers taught in college classrooms, the lions of 19th century Black life, and everyday people too, were active in resisting enslavement and the many tentacles of second-class citizenship in the Black-led conventions that they organized. Still, historical records barely mention the Black women who were key to building the critical infrastructure and raising the money that fueled this movement. We're here to rectify that today together. We're delighted to have every one of you gather to find and transcribe the names of Black women for Douglass Day, to help to fill in the absences that we've inherited, the mutings that have all but erased the labor and expertise of all of those who paved the way for us to be able to live the way we do and to continue to carry the torch of justice and democracy forward, no matter the challenges. The work we're about to do today matters. It will change not only how scholars and museums understand the longest civil rights movement before the 20th century, but how our friends, our family, and the next generation learn about it too. If you're hungry for more, please drop by coloredconventions.org and dig into our interactive exhibits. We'll hear more about them today later, and pick up the volume, The Colored Conventions Movement, Black Organizing in the 19th Century, which we were honored was named as one of the 50 best books of 2021 by Miss Magazine. But for now, let's get it done. Forward ever, let's get to it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Gabrielle. You can see why so many of us here at the CBDR feel very lucky to work with so many fabulous, brilliant folks. And I'd like to bring up another one of those fabulous, brilliant folks in just a moment to share a little bit more with you about today's activities. Justin Smith is a dual title PhD candidate in the Departments of English and African American Studies. He's also a scholar with the CBDR. Justin's dissertation focuses on early 20th century African American literature and how political identity and solidarity manifest themselves in literary texts, broadly conceived, with an emphasis on critical race theory, as well as on liberation within the Black radical tradition. You might also know Justin as one of the true leaders of Douglass Day over the past 3 years. None of us would be here today if it was not for Justin. He's the brains, the expertise, and the know-how behind the crowdsourcing project that we're all getting to enjoy today. And so I'm going to ask Justin to come up and share a little bit about what we can get into right now. Justin.
Thank you for that introduction. So I'm here to introduce our tutorial videos that we've made. So first, I'll just talk a little bit about how to get started, just set up the video. You can go to douglassday.org. If you registered, you also would have received this link as well, but there's a link on douglassday.org to the Zooniverse page, which I'll talk more about Zooniverse in a moment. And that will take you to the site where all the transcribing and finding the names will actually occur. And there's also additional resources, other places as well, which I'll mention in a moment here. So this year, it's a little bit different than previous years. We have transcribing as we've always had, and we also have added find the names. As Dr. Foreman was mentioning, we're trying to find the names of the people, particularly Black women, but everyone, all the names of people that were involved in these colored conventions. So you'll have a way to choose between those two activities today. When you're on the Zooniverse page, you'll see all the transcribe sections. They'll look like this on the page. And same thing with find the names. You'll see multiple choices. They're all separated by region on the Zooniverse page, which you'll see in a moment. So I'm going to set up our video that we'll show in a moment here. We made a full playlist of 4 videos. The first one gives an overview of what we're of our project, as well as how you can engage with it. The second video talks about signing on to Zooniverse and logging in. So if you have questions about that, you can watch that one. But the third video is the one that we'll watch in a moment here. That one has the most detailed instructions for once you're on Zooniverse, how to navigate around the site and how to complete both of the workflows that are on there in terms of transcribing and finding the names. And you'll see all those instructions in a moment. And then our final video has additional resources on it for how to get in touch with our team, as well as other ways to interact with some of the materials that you'll come across today. There's also tutorials, written tutorials on Zooniverse as you're transcribing. Clicking on the tutorial tab will allow you to view those. There's also written tutorials on douglassday.org under the tutorials tab. You can also access additional resources on social media, which we'll talk about more later today. Zooniverse has a talk message board as well under the talk tab on Zooniverse. And douglassday.org/help will take you to some resources, including a Zoom help room if you need live assistance. So like I said, we're going to show the third video. There's a whole playlist of videos, 4 videos in total. This is the third one. You can watch the other 3 on your own if you have additional questions about how to use the site. But without further ado, I'd like to show you the third video we've made on how to transcribe and find the names. In this video, you will learn the following: what a workflow is, what to expect going into the transcription process or finding the names, and how to transcribe and find the names. Once you click on a category, it will take you to what is known as a workflow. A workflow is the name for the series of questions you will be asked about a document in order to generate the best, most accurate information possible. Once in a workflow, you can read through a tutorial by clicking the forward and back arrows on the bottom.
The tutorial will automatically pop up on your first time accessing a workflow. But upon repeat accessing, you can hit the tutorial button to view a written version of the tutorial. Once you finish clicking through the tutorial, click Continue or Let's Go to begin answering questions. If transcribing, you will only have one task, which is to transcribe the document to the best of your ability. As you would normally read any document, please transcribe the text from left to right and top to bottom. Please try to transcribe all parts of the document. If you experience any difficulty while reading and transcribing the document, the following tools can still help you make the most accurate guess. Deletion. Use this tool if you notice any words that might have been erased, marked through, typed over, etc. Insertion. Use this tool if you notice any words that might have been added to the original text, either handwritten or typed. Unclear. Use this tool if the word is illegible, meaning it is difficult to read. When you use these tools, please type your best guess of the word or phrase. Then, highlight the word or phrase and cast the side. Quickly if you don't see any names, click No. If you find names, the next step will ask you to list each name and separate them with a semicolon. If the name appears to be a woman's name, or you see clues that a name belongs to a woman, put that name in brackets. Even if you don't see women's names, you may see unnamed references to women. When the workflow prompts you, if you are certain you see women, say yes. If you are certain you do not, say no. If you think there may be clues, but you are not sure, answer maybe, and you will have a chance in the next step to explain what clues you think may imply the presence of women. If you want to know more about how to identify the presence of either named or unnamed women in the document, you can consult the field guide, which has information on interpreting initials, gender norms at the turn of the century, and examples of common references to women that you may encounter in the documents. You can also click the I symbol underneath the document for any additional information about a specific document, as well as a link that will let you see how the page you're working on fits into the larger document it is part of. If for any reason you accidentally exit a workflow before hitting done, you can always go back into that category, although documents are presented in random order within each category. So you may not be able to resume the same document you were last working on. Refreshing the page once inside the workflow will take you to a new randomly selected document if you would prefer a different document. If you're unsure about where you are in the site, you can hit Transcribe Colored Conventions in the upper left, or simply re-enter the URL for the project to reload the home page.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Thank you to the whole Zooniverse team as well. We are so grateful for the platform that they provide, and hope that everybody is already off to the races and enjoying either the Transcribe or the Find the Names workflow. I'd like to invite one last guest up before we roll to activity time in just a moment. Gabrielle Sutherland is the newest member of our team and one of the staff members here at the CBDR. And I think it's fair to say, quickly one of the most important ones, who helps to enrich and improve and polish everything that she's involved in, including the amazing birthday cake that we have here in State College that we're going to show you in just a little bit. So I'm going to invite Gabby up just to say a few words about social media and our cake contest. Gabby?
Thank you for that great introduction. I just wanted to remind everyone, while you're finding all of these exciting things during your research, to tag us on Twitter at DouglassDay.org, and also use our hashtag DouglassDay, so we can see all the exciting things that you're finding. And we're also seeing a lot of cakes coming in already on social media. They're all looking beautiful. If you've made a birthday cake to celebrate Douglass Day, if you're making a birthday cake to celebrate Douglass Day, please share with us, and we will be picking some winners at the end of today's event. We'll be announcing them at 2:45.
Okay, thank you, Gabby. We are now at the conclusion of our first televised segment. We'll be back at 1 o'clock with some speakers and a dramatic reading from a Frederick Douglass speech. Then we'll take another half an hour break, and we'll be back at 2 o'clock for a spotlight on Black women in the colored conventions. So we'll leave this live stream running during the intermission. We invite you to hit mute and start typing away, start tweeting away. We are here for any questions that you might have, and we'll see everybody at 1 o'clock. Okay, hello again, everybody. We hope that everybody's finding their way okay on Zooniverse. We are so pleased to see all of the progress happening here today. If you can believe it, already in the first hour, we are making some great progress. We're delighted to share that we are already 13% done. Let's see if we can advance to that slide just to show you. And that means that we have already worked on over 2,400 pages already here on Douglass Day. So a round of applause to everybody who is here out working with us. We are in awe of all of the typing going on already. I'd like to next bring up Denise, who's going to open up our next segment and take us to some of the programming that we have brought for you today. Denise?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jim. So as you know, this is a birthday celebration. So in addition to the fabulous cakes that we're seeing that are coming through our Twitter feed, please keep those pictures coming if you want to email those cakes into us. So not only would a birthday not be possible or as much fun if we didn't have birthday cake, it absolutely would not be a birthday if we did not sing happy birthday. So we're going to ask Dr. Clay Colmon to come back and lead us in singing happy birthday to Frederick Douglass. Now, I'm going to let Clay give a little explanation about how this happy birthday song might be a little bit different from the traditional one you grew up singing, but not different from the traditional one some of us grew up singing. So without further ado, Dr. Colmon.
Thank you so much, Denise. And Denise is absolutely right. When people think about the happy birthday song in many places, they often think of the happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear Douglas, happy birthday to you. But, and in other cultures, we often sing a variation of the birthday song that's a little bit more soulful. You might remember this from Stevie Wonder's Happy Birthday. So what I want to do with all of you now, just as we did for the song earlier on, is I want you all to join in because a birthday wouldn't be a birthday, as Denise said, without the Happy Birthday song. So we've gotten the first version out of the way, and now we're going to sing the Stevie Wonder version. Y'all ready? All right. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. Come on, y'all. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. One more time. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. You all sound beautiful. Thank you all so much for joining us all together to sing happy birthday on this wonderful Douglass Day.
Thank you so very much, Clay. That was so much fun. I really do hope, excited to hear all these voices participating. All right. So what you're going to have an opportunity to see right now is a film that we recorded at this point just a few years ago that is a dramatic reproduction of a really famous speech that Douglass gave in 1883 entitled "Why Hold a Colored Convention?" This film is actually available on our website. So if you want to watch it again, which we absolutely do encourage, please go to our website and navigate your way to it. For some of you, this will be a reintroduction to this film and a reintroduction to the immense talent that is Hassan El-Amin, who really brings Douglass to life in ways that will absolutely bring you chills. So please join us and watching, listening, learning, and just getting an opportunity to step back in time to listen to the magnificent oratorical skills of Frederick Douglass.
Fellow citizens, charged with the responsibility and doing what we may to advance the interests and promote the general welfare of a people lately enslaved, and who, though now free, still suffer many of the disadvantages and evils derived from their former condition. Not the least among which is a low and unjust estimate entertained of their abilities and possibilities and their value as citizens of the Republic. Allowing the existence of a magnanimous disposition on your part to listen candidly to an honest appeal for fair play coming from any class of your fellow citizens who may have or may think they have rights to assert or wrongs to address. The members of this national convention, chosen from all parts of the United States, representing the thoughts, feelings, and purpose of colored men generally, would most respectfully and earnestly ask your attention and favorable consideration to the matters contained in the present paper. Born on American soil in common with yourselves, deriving our bodies and our minds from its dust, centuries having passed since our ancestors were torn from the shores of Africa. We, like yourselves, hold ourselves to be in every sense Americans, and that we may therefore venture to speak to you in a tone not lower than that which becomes earnest men and American citizens. Having watered your soil with our tears, enriched it with our blood, performed its roughest labor in time of peace, defended it against enemies in time of war, and at all times been loyal and true to its best interest. We deem it no arrogance or presumption to manifest now a common concern with you for its welfare, prosperity, honor, and glory. If the claim thus set up by us be admitted as we think it ought to be, it may be asked, what propriety or necessity can there be for the convention of which we are members? And why are we now addressing you, asking for justice and fair play? These questions are not new to us. From the day the call for this convention went forth, this seeming incongruity and contradiction has been brought to our attention from one quarter to another, sometimes with argument, sometimes without argument, sometimes with seeming pity for our ignorance, and at other times fierce censure for our depravity. These questions have met us. With apparent surprise, astonishment, and impatience, we have been asked, what more can the colored people of this country want than they have now? And what more is possible for them? It is said that they were once slaves, they are now free. They were once subjects, they are now sovereign. They were once outside of all American institutions. They are now inside of all and are a recognized part of the whole American people. Why then do they hold colored national conventions and thus insist upon keeping up the color line between themselves and their white fellow countrymen? Happily for us and for the honor of the Republic, the United States Constitution is just, liberal, and friendly. The amendments to this instrument adopted in the trying times of Reconstruction of the Southern states are a credit to the courage and statesmanship of the leading men of that crisis. These amendments established freedom and abolished all unfair and invidious discrimination against citizens on account of race and color, so far as law can do so. In their view, citizens are neither black nor white, and all are equal. With this admission and this merit of reproof to trimmers and traitors, we come again to the question, why are we here in this national convention? To this we answer, first, because there is power in numbers and in union. Because the many are more than the few. Because the voice of a whole people oppressed by a common injustice is far more likely to command attention and exert influence on the public mind than the voice of single individuals and isolated organizations. Because coming together from all parts of the country, the members of the National Convention have the means of a more comprehensive knowledge of the general situation and may, therefore, fairly be presumed to conceive more clearly and express more fully and wisely the policy it may be necessary for them to pursue in the premises. Because conventions of the people are in themselves harmless, and when made the means of setting forth grievances, whether real or fancied, they are the safety valves of the Republic, a wise and safe substitute for violence, dynamite, and all sorts of revolutionary actions against the peace and good order of society. If they are held without sufficient reason, that fact will be made manifest in their proceedings, and the people will only smile at their weakness and pass on to their usual business without troubling themselves about the empty noise they are able to make. But if held with good cause by wise, sober, and earnest man, that fact will be made apparent and the result will be salutary. That good old maxim, which has come down to us from revolutionary times, that error may be safely tolerated while truth is left free to combat it, applies here. A bad law is all the sooner repealed by being executed, and error is sooner dispelled by exposure than by silence. So much we have deemed it fit to say of conventions generally, because our resort to this measure has been treated by many as if there was something radically wrong in the very idea of a convention. It has been treated as if some ghastly secret conclave sitting in darkness to devise strife and mischief. The fact is, the only serious feature in the argument against us is the one which respects color. We are asked not only why hold a convention, but with emphasis, why hold a colored convention? Why keep up this odious distinction between citizens of a common country and thus give countenance to the color line? It is argued that if colored men hold conventions based on color, white men may hold white conventions based on color, and thus keep open the chasm between one and the other class of citizens and keep alive a prejudice which we profess to deplore. We state the argument against us fairly and forcibly, and will answer it candidly, and we hope conclusively. By that answer, it will be seen that the force of the objection is, after all, more in sound than in substance. No reasonable man will ever object to white men holding conventions in their own interest, when they are once in our condition and we in theirs, when they are the oppressees and we the oppressors. In point of fact, however, white men are already in convention against us in various ways and at many important points. The practical construction of American life is a convention against us. Human law may know no distinction among men in the respect of rights, but human practice may. Examples are painfully abundant. It is our lot in life to live among people whose laws, traditions, and prejudice have been against us for centuries. And from these, they are not yet free. To assume that they are free from these evils simply because they have changed their laws is to assume what is utterly unreasonable and contrary to facts. Large bodies move slow. Individuals may be converted on the instant and change their whole course of life. Nations never will. Time and events are required for the conversions of nations. Not even the character of a great political organization can be changed by a new platform. It will be the same old snake, though in new skin. Though we have war, reconstruction, abolition, as a nation, we still linger in the shadows and blight of an extinct institution. Though the colored man is no longer subject to be bought and sold, he is still surrounded by an adverse sentiment which fetters all his movements. In his downward course, he meets no resistance, but his course upward is resented and resisted at every step of his progress. If he comes in ignorance, he conforms to the popular belief of his character, and in that character, he is welcomed. But if he shall come as a scholar and a statesman, he is hailed as a contradiction to the national faith concerning his race, and his coming is resented as impudence. In the one case, he provokes contempt and derision, but in the other, he is affront to pride and provokes malice. In spite of all your religion and laws, he is a rejected man. He is rejected by trade unions of every trade and refused work while he lives and burial when he dies. And yet he is asked to forget his color and forget that which everybody else remembers. Not even our churches, whose members profess to follow the despised Nazarene, whose home on earth was among the lowly and despised, have yet to conquer this feeling of colored madness. And what is true of our churches is also true of our courts of law. Neither is free from this all-prevailing atmosphere of color hate. The one prescribes the deity as impartial, no respecter of persons, and the other, the goddess of justice, as blindfolded, with swords by her sides and scales in her hand, held evenly between high and low, rich and poor, white and black, but both are images of American imagination rather than American practices. This condition of things is too flagrant and notorious to require specification or proof. Thus, in all relations of life and death, we are met by the color line. We can ignore it if we would, and ought not if we could. It haunts us at midnight. It denies us justice in courts, excludes our children from schools, refuses our son the chance to learn trades, and compels us to pursue only such labors as will bring the least reward. While we recognize the colored line as a hurtful force, a mountain barrier to our progress, we do not despair. We are a hopeful people. This convention is proof of our faith in reason, in truth, in justice, and our belief that prejudice, with all its malign accompaniments, may yet be removed by peaceful means. When this shall come, it will be then only used as it should be, to distinguish one variety of human family from another. It will cease to have civil, political, or moral significance, and colored conventions will then be dispensed with as anachronism, wholly out of place, but not until then. Do not marvel that we are not discouraged when we consider how deep-seated this feeling is against us. The long centuries it has been forming, the forces of avarice which have been marshaled to sustain it, how the language and literature of the country has been pervaded with it, how the church, the press, the playhouse, and other influences of this country have been arrayed in its support. The progress towards its extinction must be considered vast and wonderful. If liberty with us is yet but a name, our citizenship is but a sham, and our suffrage thus far only a cruel mockery. We may yet congratulate ourselves upon the fact that laws and institutions of the country are sound, just, and liberal. There is hope for a people when the laws are righteous, whether for the moment they conform to the requirement or not. But until this nation shall make its practice accord with its constitution and its righteous laws, it will not do to reproach the colored people of this country with keeping up the color line. For that people would prove themselves scarcely worthy of even theoretical freedom, let alone practical freedom, if they settled down in silence, servile, and cowardly submission to these wrongs. They are bound to hold conventions in their own name and on their own behalf, to keep up the grievances before the people and make every organized protest against the wrong inflicted upon them within their power. Who would be free themselves must strike the blow. We do not believe, as we are often told, that the Negro is the ugly child of the national family. And the more he is kept out of sight, the better it will be for him. You know that liberty given is never so precious as liberty sought for and fought for. The man outraged is the man who makes the outcry. Depend upon it. Men will not care for a people who do not care for themselves. Go ahead, preach now.
We really hope that you enjoyed that moment that we were able to step back in time and listen to Douglas's words as they were delivered by the truly amazing Hassan El-Amin. Please do take the time, if you are that way and inclined, to watch it again at home. As I said, it is on our website. The entirety of the video is on our website, and you'll really be struck by how current Douglas's observations, unfortunately, continue to be in 2022 as they were in 1883. However, as we have continued to celebrate Douglas Day together, the official word is in. We are just over 20% complete. So a hearty thank you and congratulations to everyone who's furiously and carefully helping us get through our transcribing and our indexing and annotating. Again, we are just over 20% complete. That means a little more than 3,500, I'll repeat, a little over 3,500 pages have already been completed. That means that each page was actually touched, worked with 3 times. That's how Zooniverse works. So there's an automatic process to make sure that the information that is being recorded is being done accurately. So over 3,500 pages completed. So please do congratulate yourselves wherever you are. Thank you for what you've started, and thank you for what you are continuing to do. At this point, we're going to go ahead and close out this segment to allow for more focus time to be devoted to transcribing and indexing. Jim?
Thank you, Denise. Thank you, everybody. We are going to take a break now, as Denise said, and we'll resume here at 2 o'clock for some of our other favorite speakers who are going to talk to us about the many ways that Black women helped to make the color convention not just possible, but visionary. So we'll see everybody back at 2 o'clock, and we'll be available through all of the channels we mentioned before on Twitter at #DouglassDay or at DouglassDay.org, on the message boards and other ways as you see fit. We'll see everybody in half an hour. Okay, hello everyone. We're going to go ahead and interrupt all of the amazing transcribing. We are at last check nearing 5,000 pages that we have collectively worked on already this afternoon. That's kind of amazing. What another incredible, resounding endorsement for the collective action that we're all here for today. In a moment, I'm going to reintroduce my co-director, Denise Burgher, who's going to open up with some of the favorite material that has come to some of us from the work of the Color Conventions Project, thinking about the ways in which Black women were almost overwhelmingly completely erased from the official published minutes and proceedings of the Color Conventions. But we know we're so crucial to the envisioning, to the support, to the planning, to the intellectual work. And we know so in large part because of the work that you're about to hear about in just a moment. So I'm going to pass the mic to Denise and let her take us in.
Thank you so very much, Jim. Again, hearty congratulations to all the work that everyone has been able to complete thus far, and we're so very excited to see just how much we can get through today and over the coming days. Part of why I really wanted to introduce this next set of speakers is because if you're not embedded in the world of Black DH and you're figuring out how you take information from primary documents and you bring them into secondary documents. So you look at the original records and then you are not the person who's actually converting something that someone wrote or said in 1832 or in 1888 into a form that can be understood and is legible to a contemporary audience. You're not quite clear how much the work of scholars and students and teachers, what that actually looks like in real time. And so though we encourage people to go to our site and to engage with our exhibits, and we absolutely encourage you to purchase the first book that Jim spoke about earlier and Dr. Foreman spoke about earlier, and you've seen flash across your screen, and we're going to have a couple more visuals so that you can learn about the colored conventions for yourselves. This, by reading, this afternoon, you're going to get an opportunity to speak to people who have gone into the archives and have created very accessible content from these archives. And they're particularly important for today's conversation, for the work that we're doing today, because they centered what they're doing on Black women. As you know, our theme for this year is Where Did They Go? Which allows us to ask other questions. Where did they go? How did they go? Where did they live when they went? What did they eat? What did they carry? And so it is with an incredible amount of humility and excitement that I introduce you to Dr. Psyche Williams-Forson, who is one of the authors in the book, who wrote a signal chapter that has continued to inform the work that we do in the project, because she invites us to reconsider care work and the place that care work takes in intellectual activism. That's actually an outline of not just the chapter that she wrote, but also the exhibit which was built from that. So without further ado, Psyche Williams-Forson is a professor and chair of the Department of American Studies at the University of Maryland. She is the author of many invaluable and compelling books and articles, including the award-winning Building Houses Out of Chicken Legs, Black Women, Food, and Power, and the upcoming Eating While Black, Food, Shaming, and Race in America, which is now available for pre-order from the UNC Press, which you definitely will want to purchase alongside our book, The Colored Conventions Movement, of which she, of course, as I said earlier, has an article. She will be followed by Anna Lacy, who I will introduce after Dr. Williams-Forson speaks, and then also followed by Samantha de Vera. But right now, we're going to have a real treat, because we're going to get an opportunity to listen to Dr. Psyche Williams-Forson.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Denise. Can you all hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? All right, perfect. So first of all, I just want to thank the Color Conventions Project and for inviting me to say a few words this afternoon. It's my absolute pleasure. This, I think I shared with Gabrielle some time ago. This was one of the most fun pieces that I have written in my academic career. And it's actually one of the most important pieces that I've written because the material is so near and dear to what really has helped me to build my career in academia. And that is exploring the intersection of Black women, material culture, and social activism. I started out as a graduate student studying 19th century literature. And as I was reading this material, I was so taken in by the descriptions and the domestic activities of many African-American women during that time. Over time, I particularly became interested in issues of food and hospitality because I felt that food had the ability to tell us so much more than simply what was being eaten. And so when this call for papers went out for the Color Conventions movement, and I saw that women were not given the opportunity to speak, I reached out to Dr. Foreman and I said, hey, you know, I see this call for papers, and I'm wondering if you'd be interested in a piece on food and boarding houses and lodging. My thinking very much was at that time, and is now, that though Black women weren't able to have a platform, they couldn't stand up in front of the full assembly, they did do things like what Erica Ball talks about in her article, organize and initiate singing, right? And then they organized a repast. So for example, the article starts with a quote from and an observation from historian Jim Horton, where it says, early in the minutes of September 14th, 1858, suffrage convention of the colored citizens of Troy, New York, the recorder documents that delegates took a recess until 2 o'clock. Immediately following this detail, they talk about how they were in the adjoining hall and there was a table loaded with the most palatable refreshments, which were eaten during the recess with relish. And then they go on to talk again about the political events. But that moment, I think, is significant enough that we not gloss over it. Because what happened when people came to eat? What conversations took place, right? And who were those conversations taking place with? Most of the time when we engage in commensality or the coming together around food and drink, we have a range of conversations. How are your families? What did you do today? What are your plans? What are you thinking about what's happening in society? So forth and so on. So we have to assume that people did the same thing during that time. And in the course of those conversations, many women were able to get across their points of view, and in turn, I argue, influence and shape, albeit indirectly, the ways in which the conversations would flow at the color conventions. I'm so excited by the exhibit that Anna and Samantha were able to craft out of the work that I have written. It's a fascinating display and illustration of the very issues I was trying to get across. One of the things we also see that these women were doing, and they'll talk more about this when they talk about the exhibition, but one of the things that these women were doing, in addition to influencing the politics, they were also some of the earliest Black female entrepreneurs, right? And what I like about the work that they did is they would often compete with one another to have the best boarding and lodging environment. I want to point your attention to one other book that really drew my attention to this over 20 years ago, and that's Dorothy Sterling's We Are Your Sisters. And it's a fabulous compilation of different historical documents. And my copy is very much dog-eared because of the mention of these boarding houses and these various endorsements of particular boarding houses throughout. So that was my first entry point into Black boarding houses. Not a lot has been done in this area. And so it's waiting to be mined for all kinds of interpretations. It's something of a precursor, if you will, to the Negro Motorist Green Book, right? Which was a book that shared with African Americans, especially during the Jim Crow era, safe places that they could go to eat and sleep and socialize. And so I'm particularly excited about and interested in the political work that Black domesticity allows for, right? The political work, not always necessarily having a wide platform, but maybe simply through offering oysters and champagnes and other fine drinks and dainties, they were able to influence the political arguments and activism of the day.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much, Dr. Forson. We know, for those of us who've ever been a part of collective, where the power lies. And we know full and well that those negotiations take place, usually, just as you said, across tables that are filled with food. So again, I just want to personally thank you for the work that you've done and the ways that your contributions have shaped so very much of what we continue to do. So without further ado, I'm going to now introduce Anna Lacy. Thank you again, Dr. Williams-Forson. I'm going to introduce Anna Lacy. Anna Lacy is the metadata project coordinator for archival collections at Georgetown University, where she is assigned to the On These Grounds Digital Humanities Project. Prior to that, Anna worked as project coordinator for us at the Colored Conventions Project. Anna is also a PhD candidate at the University of Delaware, and Anna is going to take us into some of the work that she did, which was inspired and based on Dr. Williams-Forson. So again, you're getting a kind of behind the scenes peek into what academics do and how we actually build and create exhibits that center and explore things that are important to us. And for this year's Douglass Day, we're focusing on, as we've said many times before, but we do not want you to lose, where and what the women did in these colored conventions. Anna Lacy.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. So I want to begin with a special thanks to all of the Douglass Day organizers for putting together such an engaging program. It seems fitting to take a moment to recognize all of the behind the scenes and sometimes invisible labor that Denise, Jim, Justin, Courtney, Gabby, Kevin, Dr. Foreman, Dr. Moody Turner, Lauren, and all the other CBDR team members have put into making this program a success. So today I'd like to talk briefly about the digital exhibit that accompanies Dr. Williams-Forson's essay on the material culture of Black women's domestic work and labor during the Colored Conventions movement. This digital exhibit was co-curated in a graduate seminar at the University of Delaware by Dr. Williams-Forson, another graduate student, Jennifer Briggs, and myself during the spring of 2016. Slide, please. And you can access this exhibit at coloredconventions.org/boardinghouses. This essay is particularly significant because it prompts us to consider alternative spaces and forms of political activism and look beyond the convention hall. Studying boarding houses and asking questions about where convention attendees stayed and what types of food they ate challenges the dominant gender narratives of 19th century organizing for Black rights, and it also demonstrates a commitment to uncovering women's activism and presence in the reform and organizational movements of the 19th century. And lastly, this also reflects our project's commitment to uncovering a convention movement that includes women's activism and presence in the reform and organizational movements of this time. Slide, please. So today I'm going to focus on a small section of our digital exhibit and highlight two interactive data visualizations. The first is a map that features boarding house advertisements, and the second is a menu, and these are just 2 of 8 data visualizations in our exhibit. So these advertisements were a crucial part of Dr. Williams-Forson's original essay. So I use these advertisements as the foundation for our data visualization. I located an additional 50-some advertisements in other 19th century Black newspapers, and we featured them, slide please, in an interactive map that we built using story maps. And as you explore the map, you'll find scans of these advertisements, as well as citation information. Slide please. And you can click around and you can see these maps across the country and also move throughout time as well. And here's an example of 2 of the ads, including the one for Serena Gardner's Philadelphia boarding house that was featured in the original essay. And you can see here in the scan. Slide, please. So inspired by our work developing the first map of boarding house advertisements, we took a similar tactic to build our second data visualization. And this one is an interactive annotated menu that was featured in another boarding house advertisement. So here you'll see, slide please, an interactive menu from Mrs. Amy Long's boarding house advertisement. And Mrs. Amy Long was just one woman who was involved in food preparation during the colored conventions. She operated a refreshment room in her house near one of the convention's halls. The Delaware County American advertised, Mrs. Amy Long has fitted up refreshment rooms in South Avenue near the courthouse, which will provide public convenience, especially during the session of the court. She dispenses hotcakes and coffee, ham, soups, eggs, and a variety of admirably prepared edibles. And those suggestions of Christmas time's mince pies, which were so hugely appreciated by hands, are to be considered as specimens of her culinary abilities. Commend us, we say, to her proficiency in this special department. So here we took the food items that are referenced in this advertisement, and we juxtaposed them with scans from popular 19th century cookbooks. So these are just 2 of the examples in our visualizations, and I'd strongly encourage anyone who's interested in learning more about these to actually explore for yourselves. I think that's the best way to see kind of what we have for our exhibits. And to visit our exhibits page on the Colored Conventions website, you'll find more than 15 digital exhibits, dozens of data visualizations, and even a digital exhibits guide. And the CCP exhibits and website team is always hard at work and constantly adding new content, and I suspect some of which Sam DeVera will talk about next. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was a lot of fun. You already know that the work that you and Sam have done literally BA in Humanities from San Diego State University. Her dissertation, A Freedom No Greater Than Bondage, Black Refugees and Unfree Labor at the Dawn of Mass Incarceration, traces the lives of Black refugees and formerly enslaved people who experienced incarceration in the hands of the Union military and thereby the federal government during the Civil War and Reconstruction era. Sam has been with the Colored Conventions Project since 1916 and is probably one of the best visualization artists that I have ever met and or a crack researcher in my entire life. So again, in addition to being introduced in the flesh to Dr. Williams-Forson and to Anna, you now get an opportunity to see and hear some of Samantha's brilliance. Samantha?
Thank you. That was very generous. So thank you to the organizers of the Douglas Day and Jim and Denise, especially for your tireless work. I'm really glad to be here. So I want to reiterate really quickly what the College Conventions does, and it's to affirm Black women's centrality to 19th century Black organizing, even as official records anonymize or erase them. And so we pledge to account for Black women's labor and leadership in our own historical work, as well as our own project practices. Next slide, please. And this is also the foundational principle and the core methodology that has guided the College Conventions book. And I say all this to make clear that the teaching materials that we create are designed to break that spell that makes people think that Black movements, especially in the 19th century, were driven and filled with men. Next slide, please. So as a project, we've curated sample writing assignments, research guides, and educational resources, and innovative classroom teaching modules. And they encourage investigation into the themes that Black women and men tackled in the College Conventions movement. So the teaching modules that I just mentioned they accompany the exhibits. Teachers and instructors don't have to create questions or teaching guides based on the exhibits. We actually created it for them. And this is part of our efforts to focus on through 12 and one for college and AP classes. Next slide. So this is what the college or AP teaching guide looks like. It's a set of questions that instructors can bring to the class and then teach in conjunction with the College Conventions book or just with the exhibits. The questions and the suggested readings included here compel students to think of Black women as knowledge producers and as important historical actors, as well as crucial to the cause of Black liberation. Next slide, please. So for example, in our Henry Highland Garnett exhibit, based on Derek Spire's essay, the curators emphasized the importance of Julia Williams Garnett's work and on the militant address, an address to the slaves, which is generally attributed to Henry Highland Garnett alone. So we asked students, how does seeing Julia Williams Garnett as co-writer of this address change our views? And how does that enrich our understanding of Black women's work? And of course, how it's tied to Black militancy. Next slide. The exhibits themselves are rich sources of biographies of understudied Black women who really paved the path for Black education. This particular exhibit is by Charlotte Fett's class in Occidental College, and they collaborated with Cabria Baumgartner, professor and author of the award-winning book In Pursuit of Knowledge, Black Women and Educational Activism in Antebellum America. So on the left, you can see that the students created several biographies, discussing them not just as wives of activists, but activists in their own right. So in our teaching guides, next slide, please. All right. We ask questions about these women so that students can interrogate why they are marginalized in the historical record. I apologize for the barking dog, but next slide, please. So Denise Burgher has also painstakingly created K through 12 guides, which can be found in the same section. These modules are pretty comprehensive. They're about 9 pages long, and they're very informative. So each one has several components. Next slide. Complete with keywords, people, places, and events, and different types of questions that teachers can use step by step. So besides introducing students to primary sources and as well as the historiography, we asked them to think critically about gender and racial politics. By providing this resource, we introduced students to a very early Black feminist movement so that we decenter the notion that Black women did not have a movement of their own in the Civil War. They certainly did. Next slide. And lastly, these guides point students to data visualizations to introduce them to other ways of presenting as well as absorbing knowledge. And one of the best things about these guides is that they're perfectly suited for in-class or Zoom classes, and everything is open access. So with that, we hope that you would consider using these in your classrooms, and I will end with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samantha and Anna. Really want to encourage everyone, if you have not already done so, to check out our website. You will see the work that they've done, the work that so many members of our team have produced. You will be able to read go through the exhibits. You can go into the archives and read that information for yourself. And if you're a teacher, as Samantha said, you can check out our curriculum. So thank you again, Dr. Williams-Forson, Anna, and Samantha. Right now, what you are seeing on your screen is the second part of a two-part mural honoring the Colored Conventions movement that is being created in conjunction with Mural Arts of Philadelphia. Mural Arts of Philadelphia, which if you're a PA or Philly native, you know quite well, as they've literally been responsible for transforming the built environment and putting up these gorgeous murals. So we created a partnership with them, and hopefully before the end of this year, there will be two murals, rather one mural with two parts, and that will commemorate the Colored Conventions movement, both its historical roots and its present iteration. So as you can see, this is the second panel, which actually, though it contains historic images, these are historic images that have been produced in our contemporary moment. So stay tuned, check us out, check out our website, pay attention to Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, because you'll absolutely be hearing more about that mural. So right now, as we get ready to close out this segment, I'm going to hand this over to Dr. Jim Casey. Jim?
Thank you, Dr. Williams-Forson. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Sam, for all of your wonderful work. We're going to start off in just a moment and see everybody back at 2:45. Fantastic.
Okay, so we are just outside of 2:46 p.m. We hope you had a fabulous time transcribing. Let's go ahead and welcome everybody back to our broadcast. So welcome everybody back to our broadcast. And again, thank you for your work. Thank you for all that you are doing. I know the gym is going to have an update to give us in terms of the stats, what we've been able to complete, what we still have yet to complete. But just want to thank you again for joining us to celebrate Douglass Day, to celebrate Frederick Douglass, to celebrate and honor the work of Black women in the colored conventions movement, and taking this time to get more familiar with what we do and how we do it and why we do it. So again, we just want to welcome everyone back. Looking forward to seeing the comments and the pictures on Twitter. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand everything over to Jim.
All right, thank you, Denise. Maybe we can refresh the slides in just a moment so that we can see all of the great stuff that we've accomplished today. We want to say hello as well to all the folks we know who've been joining us across the course of the afternoon. We know that many folks are finding spare moments to be able to participate in this collective action today. We know it's not easy. Everybody is so busy these days. Times are not always going to invite all of the easiest opportunities to participate. And so we really want to take a second to recognize that and to leave just a brief moment. We're going to leave just 10 seconds to please everybody go around the rooms where you are and give yourselves a round of applause. Say thank you to all of the organizers, all of the hosts, all of the people putting in the effort today. Okay, so we are going to close up our last couple of minutes here today with some highlights that will hopefully be forthcoming in just a moment. It's been a long day. We've had a lot of moving parts here. We want to make sure in a moment that we get to thank all of the many people who helped to make this possible for today. What I'd like to do is to invite some of the folks who you've heard from already today to come back up to the podium, who are going to share some of the highlights from our time today. In just a moment, Gabrielle Foreman is going to come back to help us read some of the tweets from the day, and she'll be joined by Dr. Jennifer Isasi, who is an assistant research professor of digital scholarship here at Penn State, where she is also the assistant director of the Office of Digital Pedagogy and Scholarship, and one of our close collaborators and real co-pilots on all of the work that we're trying to build here. One of the many, many people who have helped to make this possible. I'm going to invite them to come up and until we have a chance to reload some slides, you can all take a big, deep breath.
So while we're waiting on the slides to get sorted, just want to take this opportunity to shout out some of what people have been posting in our Twitter thread. So there's a Katie Warzak. We're almost, oh, excellent. There we go. So I'll go back to that in a minute. Jen?
Okay. We can reverse to the beginning of those. Show everybody what we've accomplished for today. Thank you for your patience. Just back a few more. All the way back. There we go. Next slide. All right. This is the number we wanted to be able to share everybody. I think it's even risen since we took a screenshot just a couple of minutes ago. Together across all of the locations of Douglass Day, we as a collective force have worked on 6,516 classifications. A classification means one page that we have all worked on together. That means there are over 6,500 pages of Black history that are now going to become all the more accessible, usable, easier to find, search, read, be able to learn from. And this is an extraordinary accomplishment. We've done this just about 2.5 hours. We are in absolute awe of all of the work that everybody has brought to the table today. That also means that we've got a little bit more left to go. So for all the folks who are getting bit by the bug, enjoy your cake, hanging out with everybody out there, and know that this work is going to remain up and online until we get to the very finish line, and probably we'll find some more after that. So with that said, I'm now going to invite Jen and Gabrielle to come on up and share some of the tweets that we had from today.
Right, your left. Hey, everybody. All right, hold up. Then that sweet spot where we can't really see. This is from our collaborator and one of the experts in her field. She has her own digital project on Black newspapers in Ohio that we encourage you to look out for, Juan Wu. She says, so many great names, including Frances Ellen Watkins before she got married and became the famous poet and author and activist, and Virginia Tilley. It is a great joy to attend Douglass Day. And then it is signers of the Constitution with John Malvin and all of the Ohio activists. This is just an extraordinary and wonderful document. Thank you, Juan.
And Dr. Amanda Licastro did a retweet of Whitney Bertrien saying lots of hidden gems found by students in Whitney Tretien's DH course, meeting notes detailing women advocating to join a committee of the color conventions, and a letter from the same woman asking the organizers to join, plus a list of lady vice presidents in another example. And the tweet that she was quoting read, "My digital humanities class went hard on the Pennsylvania documents this morning with Amanda Licastro's help. We found the names of some women. Happy transcribing, DouglassDay."
From Ohio to Pennsylvania. Okay. Great. Here we go. And from Olin Library, a great tweet from Megan Mitchell. She says, and she's in the Oberlin College Libraries. She says, "So excited to find my second reference to John Mercer Langston of Oberlin and the Colored Conventions Project." And there's also quite a lot of work that she did finding other people like Sarah. Can we go back further? I think this wasn't the one we wanted to highlight. John Mercer Langston ended up being the dean of Howard's first, he's the first inaugural dean of Howard's Law School, where some of the exciting Black women who become lawyers also attend as students, including Marianne Shag Cary, who was the very first Black woman to enroll in law school, and her roommate, Charlotte Ray, who then is the first graduate of a Black woman graduate. So we have a whole cluster of women in John Mercer Langston and Carolyn Langston, his wife's house, where they hosted students in the tradition of Psyche Williams-Forson exhibit, which we heard about earlier. So thank you very much, Olin Library and Megan Mitchell, for this wonderful find about John Mercer Langston.
And in another tweet, we have some pictures of another library working on transcribing for us today. This comes from the Westfield State University, and they are transcribing today with us in the nationwide Douglass Day celebration. They have a transcribe-a-thon of records from the Color Convention until 3 p.m. today at the library or on Zoom.
Oh, what an amazing photograph of Faye Anderson and Frederick Douglass here. This is just such, I mean, this is Douglass with attitude, and Faye saying that he is forever her Valentine's. This is just a really lovely tweet. And then we have yet another one that Jen is going to read right there.
All right. This one is by Dr. Megan Sariter, who says, "Happy Douglass Day, Color Conventions Project Organization. Grateful to participate today and read committees and powerful resolutions from October 1863 proceedings in Leavenworth, Kansas, addressing education, gaining economic strength via agriculture, colonization, and suffrage."
And we know, of course, that Charles Langston moves to Kansas, and this is where Langston Hughes is also born. So we have some really, Langston Hughes also emerges from this move to Kansas. It's really quite wonderful to see this history emerge. And then we have a wonderful University of Tennessee, the team that has done so much innovative and transformative work around Douglass Day, and the first to actually host keynotes, also are just posting some wonderful tweets as well. Thank you.
Okay, so this is probably what everyone has been waiting for. We are here to announce our Great Douglass Day Bake Off winners. So congratulations to our first winner. This goes to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville.
Really beautiful cake. Congratulations. We advance to our next winner. We'd also like to congratulate the folks at University of Southern Mississippi. They're our second winner.
Congratulations. Our third winner goes to the library at Lafayette College. Thanks for coming today, Lafayette College. Our fourth winner is Hannah Alpert Abrams. We loved your cake. Yes. And our final and last Great Douglas Day Bake Off contest winner is our own CBDR, Lauren Barnes. Woohoo, yay!
All right, thank you, everybody. We would like to close with just some quick thank yous. We know that we're coming up on the hour here, but we can't go without saying thank you to so many people who were here to speak for us today. I'm gonna ask everybody to join me on stage here, this entire group. We wanna say thank you to Andre Johnson, Anna Lacy, Clay Colmon, Courtney Murray, Denise Burgher, Faye Chadwell, Hassan El-Amin. I'm on there, Justin Smith is on there, P. Gabrielle Foreman, Psyche Williams-Forson, Samantha Vera, all of the delegates, people who participate in the color conventions. We want to say thank you for all the time and energy and brilliance that you brought to us. We couldn't have gotten anywhere close to today without a massive, massive contribution, help, mentorship, camaraderie from Samantha Bleckham and the entire Zooniverse community. They are amazing people. We cannot begin to say thank you enough for all of their help. We also want to thank our many, many collaborators and co-conspirators, including the folks on the Douglas Day team, the folks who are collaborators here at the CBDR and Penn State, as well as our many external partners. We want to give a shout out to Lenwood Sloan, among many, many other folks who were here to help us in so many ways. I want to say thank you as well to Natalie Smith and Charlie Casey, who are out there watching for all the time to support me here. I'm going to let other folks jump on the mic just in a moment too.
We'd also like to thank the College of Arts and Sciences and Penn State Libraries for hosting us and for all the work that they do with us.
Yes, we
And
want
for
to
us.
thank our Dean Clarence Lang, thank the libraries. We're just so grateful to be here and to finally be able to do this at our new home at Penn State. So thank you all for joining us from all over the place and letting us usher in this new space.
Of course, they can't thank themselves, but Jim Casey and Denise Burgher, the co-directors of Douglas Day, have worked tirelessly not only this year, but every year to bring together a collective and a collaboration that has allowed us to resurrect a holiday. And the team every year becomes stronger, more expert, more generous with each other. And we thank them not only for the work they do, but for the way that they do it. Thank you to all the people who are also registering people to vote across the country as part of the spirit of Douglas Day.
And thank you again to everyone who organized an event to make this truly a collaborative project with people from around the country and around the world. And a big thank you to our team. Every single person here has worked so hard. And we're just so grateful to be able to work with them and to build this work together.
All right, thank you both. We have an incredible team here, including the utterly crucial, brilliant Dr. Kevin Winstead. We're gonna make him come out even though he's the man behind the camera. Thank you, Kevin. We could not share any of this work without all of whatever it is that you're doing over there that none of us understand. It's brilliant and amazing. And we also want to give just a giant, giant thank you to all of the organizers, hosts, students, transcribers, students, volunteers, people who have given their energy, brilliance, and commitment to this work and the larger mission of this work. We want to say thank you to you. And we also want to say, we'll see you for Douglas Day 2023, when we're going to be celebrating the 200th birthday of Mary Ann Shedd Cary. We're already working hard on it. We've already got lots of ideas about activities. So we'll see everybody back February 14th, 2023 for the 200th birthday of Mary Ann Shedd Cary. With that, we'll say thank you for this year and we'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.